What's going on, everyone? This is Jay Wicker with Real Estate Aholics. Hey, man, we're running a little behind today, but everybody can log in as they jump on here. So, give me 1 second here. Give everybody a chance to get logged in here. Now, keep in mind, man, we're entrepreneurs, man. So everybody have a lot going on. So sometimes we may start on time, sometimes we may not, man. But just keeping it real. So. Um, I just so happened to be doing a little research on some different things that I got going on, so I was ready to roll. But tonight we're going to be talking about 1031 exchange, how to use it, when to use it. Is it a certain period of time that you can use it? Can you use a 1031 exchange for your personal residence? Does it have to be an investment property? We're going to talk about all these type of things here. The pros and cons of a 1031 exchange. We're going to talk about that as well. So I would advise you guys to get your pen and paper ready. Um, ask us any question that you may have about 1031 exchange as well. And what we know, we'll let you know. And what we don't know, we're gonna be honest with you, tell you we don't know. Right? We can look these things up. So just a quick disclaimer. Um, we are not attorneys. We don't claim to be. We don't play one on TV or the internet. So this information we're about to dispense is for entertainment purposes only. So I hope you guys understand that. Just because of what we're talking about, don't invest your money into a 1031 exchange, especially if you don't know about it. It's important to do that. It's important to know exactly about whatever you're investing in. What's up? What's up, Cody? How you doing today?
Hey, buddy, how are you?
Man, I'm doing great, man. I
Coming
apologize
in hot.
about that. What'd you say?
Coming in hot.
It's all good. It's all good, man. I just let everybody know what we're gonna kind of talk about today. Everybody else should be kind of rolling in here in a few minutes as well. So how's it going up there? How's it going up there in the West Coast?
We're still up in the Northwest here. We're still
Northwest.
experiencing winter. I mean,
Oh,
it's cold, and
wow.
I'm ready for some warm escape to Texas or someplace where it's warm.
Yeah, it's been 80 degrees and stuff up here, man. It's been.
I'd love to see an 80-degree day.
I had a sweater on today, and guy walked up to me and said, "Why you got this sweater on, man?" I'm trying to lose weight, I'm trying to sweat,
Uh-huh.
He's like, "You making me hot, brother. Walk around with that sweater." I had to come out. I had to come out of it, man. So, but yeah, I've definitely been trying to hit the gym and doing a little walking and all that stuff, man. Trying to lose a little weight. It's tough,
I,
though.
I,
I tell you.
I've lost. I was counting it up. I've lost about 40 pounds myself, and
What you doing?
the main thing I've done is just intermittent fasting.
That's what I'm doing now. That's what I'm
Yeah,
doing
and
now.
then portion control, so I don't overeat. And so I've got to the point where, when I have a plate of food in front of me, it's almost like too much. And so
Mm.
so that's been very, very helpful for me. So
So are you eating like like 16 and 8, or how you
I
doing your intermittent fasting?
I think, let's see, I don't know the numbers. I stop eating at about 6:30. I don't need to eat after 6:30 in the evening, and then I usually don't have anything until like 10 o'clock the following morning. So, I
Okay,
mean,
okay.
that takes math, and I'd have to find my calculator. So, so
Absolutely. Well, I'm just starting up. Been starting now about 2 weeks now, man. I feel a
yeah,
lot better. I feel a lot
yeah,
better. Before
good.
I kind of fell off the pace.
You always look good, so
I appreciate it. You too, man. I picked up me something today, man. I felt guilty about doing it. So normally I don't feel guilty. So at least it's working.
yeah,
So yeah,
awesome.
but yeah, man, we'll jump right into this thing. So again, everybody that's tuning in here, welcome to the Real Estate Aholics. And so we'll start this thing off, man. Cody, tell us what you do, where you calling in from, all that good stuff.
All right. Hey, thank you very much, Jay. Yeah, my name is Cody Cox. I am a fund manager with a company called Bridge City Factors. We manage note funds. And so my area of expertise, if you will, is on the promissory notes secured by residential real estate. So my goal is not so much to own the real estate, although I do have to on occasion, but my goal is to own the paper that secures the real estate. And therefore, I do not have to worry about toilets, tenants, or termites at all. The people I deal with, the consumers I deal with, are the owners of the property, and when they make their mortgage payment, that comes to me. And so that's the side that I prefer to be on. I've got just over 40 years in the mortgage industry, and I kind of feel I'm uniquely positioned to succeed in the mortgage note industry. So
love it, man. Now, Cody, how long have you been doing that now?
I've been investing in notes for my own portfolio since about 2014, I think it is. So,
okay, 2014.
So what
okay.
is that? It's about 9 years now. But I've been involved in the industry since 1982, and so it's instead of doing it for other people's portfolio, I'm now doing it for my own.
Gotcha. But yeah. I mean, everybody who's looking to get into real estate, man, there's a lot of different ways that you can go in real estate, right? So like Cody said, he don't like to be dealing with toilets and light bulbs and all that stuff, man. He just want to put his money and let his money work for him, basically.
Exactly.
So that's what you do, man. Being that eye in that quadrant. That's the key to this whole deal. So definitely, man. So you guys know I'm Jay Wicker. I am a wholesaler for residential and commercial, preferably commercial multifamily units. That's kind of what my expertise are at right now. So I'm probably doing about 95% of everything I'm doing is dealing with commercial right now. So if you got a deal, no matter what city or state is in, it's a commercial deal. You got to smoke a deal. That's the key thing. Or if you try to figure out how to, if you have a great deal or not, definitely reach out to me. We kind of go over that thing and see what we can do. I've been doing a commercial thing now, probably full time now, about since January now. But I actually my first deal, it was 4 deals in one. It was 3 small houses and a corner store. So my very first deal was a commercial deal. It was a little corner store or whatever the case is. So now I'm back to it full time, man. So I'm looking forward to closing some of these deals and acquiring some of these deals now. That's my goal. So yeah, and you get in that position now like Cody is eventually. Sit back and take it easy. So today, I mean, dealing with real estate that we're dealing with, that a lot of people are dealing with, man, there's a tool out there. If, a lot of you guys may be familiar with or heard of it or whatever the case is, and that's 1031 exchange. So what I did, I pulled it up, man. Where's it at? What I do? So I wanted to know, what is a 1031 exchange? All right. So this is what I was able to pull up. So it says under the section 1031 of the United States Internal Revenue Code, a taxpayer may defer recognition of capital gains and relate federal income tax liability on the exchange of certain types of property. So it's tax deferred. It's basically what a 1031 exchange. So from my understanding, I was thinking that basically you didn't have to pay taxes, but you're basically kicking the can down the road. Basically, is what you're doing in that situation, which can be huge when dealing with real estate. Right. So this now, instead of just paying Uncle Sam up front, you can use that money in order to make more money, and then pay it at the end when you decide to sell. Some people decide not to sell. It is actually when they pass, then it's being paid or whatever the case is. So, but yeah, so it's kicking the cans down the road. So have you ever done one of these before, Cody?
Well, dealing in the note realm, we don't have a 1031 exchange type scenario. Again, notes are not considered real estate; they're considered personal property. But I have some good friends that actually run a 1031 exchange company here in the Portland area, and they've helped me set up some self-directed IRAs. But on a 1031 exchange, it's part of the IRS tax code, which you talked about, section 1031, and it does allow you to defer capital gains taxes on investment property that you own. And you have to, when you want to exercise or do a 1031 exchange, there are some restrictions and limitations in that. One of which, of course, is you have to be able to purchase a like kind at the same value or greater value than the one that you're selling. And then there's certain time restrictions as well. So if you sell your current property right now, you have what is it? And I'm not quite sure on the time frames, something like 60 or 90 days to
90
identify
days? 90 days
to identify the new property to purchase, and then something like 120 to complete the exchange part
I
of it.
think 180. I think it's
180
180.
then. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Good. Good. Yeah. So those are some of the things to think about. And, oftentimes you find an investor or a landlord who has sold their current property, but finding that like kind to upgrade can prove difficult. So sometimes the timing on that is one of the biggest challenges when dealing with the 1031 exchange.
Yeah. So the deal with the thing would be is to basically go find that property first. Or whenever you have that thought process, look, I want to sell this property. It's important to go find that property, or maybe multiple properties that you can buy at one time that equals up to what you're, something more than what you're actually selling for, or whatever the case is. So
Right. Right.
That's probably the biggest thing, man. A lot of people end up paying that capital gains tax because they cannot find it or they wait too long. From my understanding, when that happens, it's like you didn't budget your time right, right? You didn't do something right in the whole mix. You shouldn't have to do that. There's so much
Right.
real estate out there that shouldn't be an issue. But yeah, so like Cody said, so you got to find something that's equal to where you're at or greater. So nothing down, anything down, of course, it blows that whole deal up. You got to pay that capital gains tax. so I was doing some research on it. Can you do your personal residence as a 1031 exchange? From my understanding, you can't. I wasn't quite clear from that. So it's got to be an investment property.
It's got to be non-owner occupied investment property. That's correct.
Yeah. So if you have a property that's for sale, let's say you own it with outright, I guess you say, and you want to go ahead and sell it, you want to kind of avoid taxes or whatever the case is, there's no way to do that in your personal residence. So that's interesting to know.
Yeah. Of course, the tax code does say on your personal residence, if you occupy that property, what is it, 3 out of the previous 5 years, then you are exempt from capital gains on that up to a certain amount. And I think that might be like $800,000 in proceeds, something to that effect. So you actually can avoid capital gains taxes on the sale of your personal residence as long as you've occupied that property 3 out of the previous 5 years.
Yeah. So it's definitely a great tool to use, man. And there's a lot of people out here actually using those, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people actually using it. So definitely, if you have any questions about that, definitely reach out to maybe a real estate attorney. Maybe you can kind of walk you through something like that.
Yeah, and there's various companies around the country that specialize in the 1031 exchange. And again, I'm familiar. I've got some people that I know here locally. In fact, it's 1031exchange.com. And so they were pretty early in on it because they got that URL and they've been doing it for like 30 years now. So but there's a lot of folks all over the place that are references or resources for that. Yeah.
And the key to is make sure you vet those people as well.
Absolutely.
It's very important to do that. You want to send that money over to that, you don't go in your hand, go directly to their hands or whatever the case is. And you don't want nobody walking away with your money in your pocket. So make sure you vet those people and do it again, get some check references and all that good stuff, man. And even there, you need to watch them.
Yep.
You still need to watch them. So what's some causes, man, that can make a 1031 exchange fail? I know we talked about not acquiring a property or finding a property in time. What are some other things, man, that can fail a failure of a 1031 exchange?
Well, I think you've kind of alluded to two of them. One is that when you sell your property and you deposit those proceeds into a exchange company, that the exchange company doesn't operate correctly, or they somehow decide that your money is more important to them than it is to you, and so that's something, like you said, you've got to make sure you're vetting that exchange company and the people who manage that and own that to make sure that they have the reputation and that they know what they're doing. The second thing we also kind of alluded to is the available property to exchange that money into. Again, that's what I see, what I'm aware of to be the largest concern is that I may be able to sell my property, but I can't find one to exchange it into. And as you guys that are looking for residential real estate that want to become a landlord know that finding a property that fits your criteria is hard enough as it is. And then when you have a time frame that's placed on it because of the 90, 180 day kind of stuff, that only compounds the issue. And then you start getting a little nervous and because I've got to move this money. I've got to identify something. I've got 15 days left to go, and I don't see anything out on the market there. So those are some of the kind of concerns that happen. I mean, another thing could be is that if, let's say, the net proceeds that came out of your sale is about $100,000, and then you're ready to exchange that into another property, and you have to go for financing. For whatever reason, the financing that you're seeking on the new property doesn't come through for you. You're no
Yeah.
longer qualified. You've had some sort of credit event that affects your credit. So, there's a couple little things like that are pretty common that could bounce up as you're trying to do that exchange.
Yeah, that is so true. That's so things happen, man.
They do, yeah.
Yeah, things happen. I mean, like you said, it's nothing worse, man. You having a pile of money that you got to unload, and you got something over your head, and you're worrying about that, right? So you can say, imagine what we talked about, a total of 180 days, I guess, right? After you find the property and all that stuff. So, but that can go by pretty quick, 90 days or whatever, because that can go by really, really quick, man. And what happens is people tend to buy something that's not really a good deal just to unload the money to avoid paying the capital gains tax.
Actually,
Right?
that's a really good point, Jay. That's a really good point. You force yourself into buying a subperforming or subpar property just so you can meet the deadlines and avoid the capital gains. I think that's really, of the things that we just talked about, that might be the biggest pitfall. You may be successful in completing the exchange, but the property you exchange into is not a good property just because of the time pressures involved.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. What is he saying? Related parties. It's only applied to acquired properties, not relinquished. I'm not understanding that.
I'm not really either.
Yeah. Come on, jump on, man. I just dropped the link, man. So jump on so you can explain that to us. I don't understand what you're asking. Yeah, definitely jump on. Yeah, so definitely, man. So the important thing, once you know you're ready to sell your property to acquire another property, at that moment, while it's in your brain, your brain should say, okay, let me start looking now. Don't wait till you actually got a buyer, you got a time, you got in a contract, don't do all that. Just start immediately. Start looking for those properties. Calling those brokers up, calling those other wholesalers up, calling whoever you need to call up and get those deals coming through. And you see something that you like, then you get your buyer and you kind of match that thing up, man. Because capital gains tax is what? What are we looking at as far as capital gains tax? What's the percentage?
Could be 28%.
That's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah,
That's
depends on your overall tax bracket. The other thing is that you've got to make sure that you never personally put your hands on the money. Because as soon as you personally put your hands on the money, then that negates the 1031 part of it. So the money has to, when you sell the property, escrow needs to disperse it into the 1031 exchange company. All the money, all the proceeds, they have to hold it. And then when you purchase the other property, the replacement property, then that 1031 exchange company will disperse that directly into escrow. So you can't touch the money. It's like trying to do a conversion on a IRA of some sort, or from your 401k to a personal IRA. You can never touch that money because then it becomes a taxable event.
Absolutely. That's the key too. You don't want to touch your hands. Well, once you touch your hands, it's over. You done blown it up now, right? So
exactly,
you don't pay that money. Like you said, 20% capital gains tax, man. That hits you hard. Absolutely. And you said something too, man, about you may have, let's say, 100K or whatever that you're going to make off this particular deal, but you've seen something that's worth maybe 130, 140 that you have to get a mortgage on, or maybe more, or whatever the case is. But the way everything is set up right now, what may be something that you can get approved to purchase today may not be the same thing tomorrow. And then now you're really in a dilemma.
Yep.
So you need to really look at every single aspect, from your credit, make sure that's right, so it can be no issues. Make sure you have you liquid, whatever they require. You make sure you have more than enough. So if something comes up, you still get it done. If not, that capital gain is gonna jump up and bite you. So he said again. He said, "Can you explain how it doesn't work with related parties?" For some reason, I'm not understanding.
I don't quite understand what he's trying to say there.
You got to jump on, man.
She's trying to say, yeah.
Yeah, let me see. Let me drop this link here. I just
When you
dropped the
say
link here.
related party, do you mean like a relative? If there's a relative involved in that, I'm not quite
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
exactly what that question is asking.
yeah. I just dropped the link there, so please jump on here so we can answer your question for you. All right. So now we talked a little bit about the capital gains, some of the failures, man, and it could be, anything, man. It's like, I kind of use the analogy, man, like you bring in a boat to the dock or whatever the case is, right? You got to make sure that everything lines up before you step off that dock into that boat, because one false move, there you go, fall in the river, right? That's kind of how
Hmm.
it is when it comes to that 1031 exchange. So, and you have to get with somebody or get with a company that really knows what they're doing. You have to really vet that company to make sure, because we're talking about your money, right? So
Right.
make sure they're good and check all references. Do everything you need to do in order to reasonably know that this person knows what they're talking about. It's not easy thing from my understanding. So I have never done one, but I've done a lot of research on it based on what we're gonna talk about today. It's like, wow, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. And that money you're gonna pay for this capital gains tax can be used towards you know other investment properties, so you continue to make more money off of that money that will otherwise be going right to Uncle Sam, right? So you're
Yeah.
kicking the can down the
Yeah.
line. So yeah, so that's a huge deal. That's pretty huge.
Now, there's a little trick involved in this as well, that not sure I can fully explain. But when you think about somebody starting off with a rental house today, they sell it, they exchange that into a duplex, they sell that, exchange it into another property, and so on and so forth. So they've deferred taxes maybe through 4, 5, 6 different,
Yeah,
events, property exchanges over a period of time. And then my understanding is that there is a way to avoid having to pay those capital gains on the end if that property becomes an inherited property.
yeah,
So an heir may avoid having to pay capital gains tax on that if they get, and again, I'm not sure on this, would be something to talk with one of these exchange experts.
yeah,
If they inherit it as part of a trust or through some sort of probate or something like that, since their new gain would be the value of what they were inherited to, that all the past capital gains do not transfer over to the person inheriting. And that obviously takes the original purchaser, needs to pass away before all that could happen.
yeah,
But I understand that there's a way that that can be, totally wiped out on the back side of things, rather than, because otherwise, when you decide that you're going to get rid of all your properties, you have this capital gains tax you're going to
yeah.
have to pay. And then, what is your basis that that gets calculated on? Is it on the first property you acquire, or is it on the last property you acquire? I'm assuming it's got to be the last property you acquire and whatever gain might be there. And then what happens if your property loses value? So there's a lot of different things that are little nuances that, unless you are an expert on this or have done it several times, those are the kind of questions you want to ask when you're talking to one of these exchange companies. What if, what if?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
would say have 1,001 questions for
Yeah. Yeah.
them. It's very important. Uh, I did a little research on when we talked about syndication. So maybe you got a commercial deal that you have done a syndication on. So one guy asked, are you able to do that with let's say somebody buy you out or whatever the case is? From my understanding, you can't. I didn't get a chance to. I read over it, but I couldn't completely understand what they were saying when it comes to that syndication thing. So,
Yeah.
but again, reach out to somebody who does that company that does that, and you ask the questions, so that way you get a firm answer on that. And then a lot of people when they buy these commercial property, it may be 100 people, it may be 50 people that's investing X amount of dollars into these syndication deals, and you can make you
Yeah.
some good money. But when you get ready to sell this thing, can you take that same money and invest into something else? Maybe you can, maybe you can't. That's something you got to reach out to them people and ask them about that.
Well,
So
yeah, and with a syndication, that becomes an investment into a company, and the company takes your
exactly.
money and purchases that multifamily property, whatever. So my thought process as I think about this is, with the other requirement that if you're going to do a 1031 exchange, the proceeds from the original house that you're selling needs to be in a like, kind, or greater piece of property. And so investing that money into a syndication would not be a like kind property.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
would think that that doesn't work to invest 1031 exchange capital into a syndication. I know because I get the question from time to time, can I take my 1031 exchange proceeds and invest that in mortgage notes? And no, you can't, because those are not like kind assets.
Mm, that's a good point. That's a good point. So, so that's interesting because I actually thought about that because I had never did no research on it till now. But once we doing a syndication is actually investing in something like that. But like you said, you're actually investing in that company.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow. I got to reread what I read earlier. So that's a good point. Man, I hope you guys are listen to these Jews, man. Cody, you're dropping them on us. All right. So what is the 2-year rule for the 1031 exchange? So have you heard that before?
Well, I could guess at it, but I don't know if I'm definitive about that. So why don't you go ahead and answer your question,
Okay, so
and then I'll tell you if I was right or not.
all right. So I just googled this earlier, man. So it said the 2-year holding period starts running on the date of the transfer of the convenience of the last property involved in the 1031 exchange party transaction. So 2 years. So I guess you have to have a property for 2 years then, right? Of the last one.
Yeah, what it sounds like in what you said there is that once you exchange money out, you've taken the proceeds from the sale of the first house, exchange that into a new property. You have to hold that property for 2 years
Yeah.
before you can roll it into another 1031 exchange. Now, the
Mhm.
question that just comes to my mind as I say that and as I listen to you is, because there's a lot of people that will buy a rental house and hold it for a year, and they'll refinance it and take capital out. They'll take money out because the value is increased enough. How
Yeah.
does that work in a 1031 exchange if some of the money that's coming out of a refinance is part of the 1031 money that you put into that property at acquisition? So that would be another question that somebody could ask when they're going through the vetting process of these exchange companies. Can I refinance after 1 year and pull equity out? Will that
Wow.
trigger anything from a tax basis? Does that make anything a taxable event?
Wow. That's it's so many different things, right? When it comes to this, because I've seen when I looked it up, right, they were saying a lot of people are trying to do 1031 exchange, but it's not as easy as you think. Some people said it is easy, so it's like it's a lot of different things to it. My advice would be do your due diligence on it, write down as many questions that you may have or whatever, and sit down with somebody who can actually walk you through, maybe a couple of people.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Sit
Exactly.
down
Yeah.
with a couple of people and to make sure that you understand what you're doing before you even try to do this, because this is a lot of money you're talking about here. When
Yeah.
you do a 1031 exchange, man. So any money you put towards something like that, you got to know what you're doing.
Yeah,
You got
and the 1031 exchange is really a tax. It's a taxable IRS kind of thing.
yeah,
It's not really a real estate kind of thing, although real estate is involved. So the people that you want to ask the questions to may not be real estate attorneys, they may be tax attorneys.
that's
And
true.
so I think that's
That's
the
true.
separation, to make sure you're asking the right people these questions.
Yeah, I agree. Man, great. That's great information there. All right, let's go to this next one. So how risky is this 1031 exchange? How risky is it?
Well, I think, like you said just a few minutes ago, a lot of people feel that it's pretty easy, and a lot of people say it's kind of can be complicated. I think if it's just the vanilla, you're selling one property and buying another one, and there's no quirks to it, it's probably a pretty simple thing to do as long as you have all the proper parties involved in it. But when you have to get a
Yeah,
little creative, you know, that's because you're dealing with IRS tax law. If you have to get, or you plan on getting a little creative with that, then there could be some complications, some risk. I mean, the big risk is that the IRS deems that this is not a properly executed exchange, and they declare the proceeds taxable. That's a big risk
yeah.
to me if something goes sideways and you don't follow all the rules.
and you definitely don't want to get on the wrong side of the IRS.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah. And then the another risk, I think, is basically a change in tax law. There has been some conversations in Congress and at the at the presidential administration as they've been looking at some of the tax laws. One of the things they were trying to do here, early on in this administration's tenure, is they were trying to change the 1031 exchange
Yep.
law and take it away, as
Yep.
well as do some tinkering with the IRA regulations. And so that's a risk as well. Is that if there is some success in changing the tax laws around a 1031 exchange, and then there's some risk involved there.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was going to bring up as well, man. Yeah, you can see that, man. It seemed to me when you see people they get to messing with stuff like that, man. I immediately think that it had to be something good, especially as an investor, right?
Right.
The last president, was definitely an investor. So for him to have that in place, it's beneficial for him, right? So that's what but the next person come in there, whatever. I guess he's not an investor and get to taking things away. Right. So
well, I feel in those scenarios that the people that get hurt by that change in legislations are people like you and I, the mom and pops that are just trying to put together a little rental portfolio to help with retirement. Those are the ones that get hurt, where the multinational corporations, or like the Black Rocks, or those kind of big companies that own all sorts of different residential rental investment property, they have the deep pockets, the capital that they can deal with and absorb that change much better. So that's if we're just playing at the level that we're playing at, I feel that we're the ones that have the greater risk in those kind of changes.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah,
man. All right, so here's the next one. Can I pay off my personal home with a 1031 exchange? So you cash out, right? Can I go and pay off my home with that? Is that possible?
Well, yes, it is.
But would you want to do that though? Right?
Yeah.
So I mean, of course, you're gonna hit with that capital gains tax by doing it.
Exactly.
Right? So
Yeah.
that's 20% off the top.
Yeah. Right.
At least. Yeah, you definitely could do it. You definitely could do it, man. But why would you? Why would you?
Yeah.
This is the question, So yeah. Man, so let's do this. Let's do this here. I'm gonna look at this guy named Peter. I think it's Peter Conti, I think his name, or this Peter. I call him Peter. This guy online, man, he breaks down like a 1031 exchange so that it's really easy to understand.
Yeah.
Let me click this in real quick here. Let me see here. See if I can do this. Let me see. Let's see. Let me know if you can see this.
There we go.
So this guy kind of really breaks it down, man, step by step. So let's listen to for a few minutes here to see what he's talking about.
Still exists today. Let me explain.
Can you hear that?
Yes.
Okay.
This is what I did. I took my single-family home rental, had a little bit of cash flow, and I sold it, and I took 100% of my profits, or 100% of my equity, and I purchased a 44-unit apartment building without paying taxes again, right? Not only did that increase my net worth, it also increased my cash flow enough where I could leave my job as an engineer, all right? So let's say that this is you, right? So let's say that you have multiple single-family homes, okay? And you bought them with the intent of using them to assist you with your retirement, or at least set you up for the retirement, but it quite didn't work out that way because of the low cash flow, the number of repairs, maybe the management issues. What do you do, right? How do you get on track towards retirement? I have an idea, right? How about bundling your multiple single-family home properties and selling them without paying taxes again, and trade up into a Starbucks, into a triple net lease investment where you have no landlord responsibilities and perhaps you have a 15-year lease.
All right, let's stop there for a second. So we talked about a little bit about retirement, right? So a lot of us, the mom and pop operations, we want to get us a couple of properties and ultimately get up to that point to where we may be doing a multi-family property, or like Peter just said about, maybe a commercial property. So how he bundled this thing together in order to use a 1031 exchange. If I'm not mistaken, the 1031 exchange, he had to do that, right? So when he sold it, he invested his money into that. He bought him a triple net lease, which means this lease is basically, only thing he's doing is getting paid. Is nobody, whoever he leasing that from for maybe 5-10 years or whatever the case is, they got to pay everything. If the roof leaks, they got to put a new roof on it. If it needs new plumbing, they got to, all he does is collect the check for the next 5, 10, 15 years, or whatever, however long that lease is. That's a huge deal when using the 1031 exchange. What do you think about that, Cody?
Well, so if I understand what he said correctly, and in looking at the graphic he has there, it appears to me that he didn't buy the Starbucks identified property, but he purchased the lease.
Okay.
Did I get that correctly? So he bought the lease, therefore he doesn't own the property. So any sort of tax benefits from property ownership he doesn't have, but he does have the cash flow aspect of it all, which kind of what is your strategy? What is the investor strategy to own the property with the tax benefits of property ownership, or is he looking primarily? Is that investor looking primarily for cash flow because that allows him cash flow as he preps for retirement? So I have some questions to Peter about for him to go back through that a little bit and clarify: am I purchasing the property and leasing it out, or am I purchasing the lease?
Okay.
And then all the payments from that are going to him. So when Starbucks makes their monthly lease payment, it comes to him. So I just have a couple questions about what he's saying there. Does that make sense, what I'm asking?
So, let me see if I can get back to it. I messed around and did something. I can't even get back out of this thing, man. What did I just do, man? Let me see. Let me get back to it.
Okay. So this is the leverage part. That I explained before. Mr. Harris, I am the author of this book, Commercial Real Estate Investing for Dummies. All right. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to take your rental property and trade it up into a larger commercial property, increasing your net worth, increasing your cash flow without paying taxes. Let's get started. All right, here's the case study. And let me say this again, that
did I go too far?
Exchange is one of the
I'm not sure. I think he's explaining kind of what he had, because in this scenario here, he's got kind of two different case studies he's talking about.
Okay. Yeah, he's about to. Okay, I think he's about to answer that question you said too.
Yeah.
He's gonna tell us exactly how he did it.
Bundling your multiple single-family home properties and selling them without paying taxes again, and trade up into a Starbucks, into a triple net lease investment where you have no landlord responsibilities and perhaps you have a 15-year lease. Not only does this increase your net worth, but also stabilizes your cash flow for the next 15 years.
Okay, I think I understand what he's saying there. I think he is talking about actually buying the real estate that Starbucks is the tenant, and being a triple net lease, they're paying the net on that, which is, all the utilities, all the taxes, and all the other stuff it involves in being a triple net tenant. And all he has to do is own the property and receive the lease payment. So that makes sense to me. Thank you for going back and running through that again. Now it does. He's not buying just the lease. He's buying the property that is occupied by and operated through a triple net lease. So that makes sense to me now.
So he's selling. So in this case, he has the 4 properties, right? The small properties. So I guess he sold us in this situation to buy that triple net lease. And he has a tenant there, which is Starbucks, that has a 15-year lease on it. All he's doing is collecting the payments off this property every single month for the next 15 years.
Yeah.
So if they break the lease, guess what? They got to still pay him, right? So that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
By doing that, that's pretty big. That's big. Let's listen a little bit and see what else he has to say in this situation.
Yeah.
That's what we call a 1031 exchange, and that's what this video is about. It's also known as a 1031 tax deferred exchange, and that's what I'll be talking about today. Hello, everyone. My name is Peter Harris. I am the author of this book, Commercial Real Estate Investing for Dummies, also, and trade it up into a larger commercial property, increasing your net worth, increasing your cash flow without paying taxes. Let's get started. All right, here's the case study. And let me say this again, that the 1031 exchange is
and as he goes through here, we'll stop every couple of things to kind of talk about a little bit.
one of the most powerful tools out there to build wealth in real estate by paying no taxes or by deferring taxes if done the right way. So I'm going to start this case study off by giving you the problem and then the solution, and then moving on from there so you can really get it. All right, so here's the problem. The problem is you have a single family home with equity. That's a good problem, right? Secondly, you have a little bit of cash flow. That's also pretty good. But here's the problem. Your intent when you started purchasing single family homes were to buy multiple single family homes so that you can increase your cash flow so it can set you up to retire, right? Or leave your job, or perhaps if you were to get downsized at your job, you could still pay the bills with the cash flow from the multiple single family homes, or perhaps you could leave your job, right? Many of you, that's your goal. Or maybe this one, to pay the kids' college tuition when the time comes. But here's the problem, right? Your plan isn't working out the way you planned.
So let's stop right there for a second. That can be the problem for a lot of people as well, right? So we have this idea of what we're trying to do, especially starting out. We want to acquire these homes. A lot of us, from probably where I'm from, right, we started in these disassembled communities, right? So the properties are not as high, right? They may have, something where I'm from, they have properties of $20,000 or $25,000, whatever the case is, right? You're getting 2% on it though, right? on the particular property every single month. But if something breaks down, it really kind of wipes away all your income that you probably gonna make for the whole year, right? So it's not quite working out in the way that you think it should be working out. So in this situation, you just take, if you can combine, you can sell everything as a package deal. Once you fix it up, you get the prices raised up a little bit, and you can find a commercial property that you want to invest in. Preferably something like he's talking about, to where you don't have to go change any, toilet stool breakdown or lights or anything like that. And this way you can really build wealth for your family. Is that the gist? Is that what you kind of got out of there, Cody?
Yeah, I actually kind of like his plan, especially because it touches on one of my favorite topics, and that's passive investing and passive income. Because if you're able to purchase into a property that has that triple net lease underneath it, and all you have to do is collect the lease payments, that's just about as close to passive, if not already being passive, as you can get, and still own a piece of property, in this case a commercial one. The obstacle maybe is finding that type of property. That would be the thing. But I like his concept. I think it's pretty sound, and satisfies a lot of the things that I look for, and that's just being as hands off as I can.
Yeah. And so his name is Mr. Peter Harris. He works with commercial property investors. He's very good, man. He has tons of videos on YouTube that walks you through how to put together a lot of different commercial properties and stuff like that. So to answer you guys' questions, so Peter Harris, commercial property investors, definitely check him out. He's the truth. All right. Let's see what he says.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It could be he's using a Starbucks here, but it could be at 7-Eleven. Yeah. It could be at Dunkin' Donuts. It could be, even in some intent, it could be like a dentist's office or something like that. So, the range of properties that you could triple net exchange into are really endless,
Endless.
Yeah.
But like we talked about, that it's important once you see that you want to sell these properties. Let's say in this situation, right? He probably seen that property first. Then you know what? I can sell my properties and acquire this property, right? So that's the thing. So once you know in your mind you're ready to sell your properties, you should already start looking for something else.
Yeah,
Immediately.
And hopefully there's
a window.
Yeah, hopefully there's an avenue in here, either through what Mr. Harris does here or what you might have available, Jay, has some sort of checklist to make
Yes.
sure that I've done this, I've done this, I've
Yep.
done this, to make sure you walk through that. Or as you're, engaging in one of these exchange companies, even before you decide to sell the property or properties that you have now, is to engage with them, and they probably have a comprehensive checklist to follow. So I think that's a good tip for anybody out there that's kind of considering that, is to make sure that you do get something that you can follow as a template.
Absolutely, very important. I think anything you're gonna do in life in general, in business, definitely in business, you need to have a checklist in order to get everything accomplished. Because sometimes we can have it in our mind, and we miss one thing, it knocks everything off.
Yep.
And it seems like that one little thing is set everything down. So get your checklist and mark it off as you go. So you're absolutely right. If I'm not mistaken, I know he has a tons of stuff at the back of his videos a lot of times that you can just download for free as well. So Peter Harris, man, he's the truth. All right, so let's see what he's talking about for our solution is concerned. So that was the problem. So let's jump into the solution.
Is because it's taking too long, right? This is buying single family homes is the long way of achieving the goals, right? So that's the problem. Here's the solution. The solution is based upon the 1031 exchange. The solution is to sell your single family home rentals, all of them, or the ones with the equity, and perform a 1031 exchange or 1031 tax deferred exchange where you pay no taxes and purchase either a triple net lease investment that I explained before, a large apartment building, a shopping center, industrial building, office building, warehouse, mobile home park, self-storage, what have you, right? If you do it correctly, and I will show you in a few minutes how to do this correctly, you can multiply your cash flow and net worth. All right, so that's the problem. Here's the solution. The next thing I want to do is share with you the three main things you need when considering or doing a 1030 exchange. Let's go there next.
All right. So as you guys know, when you're dealing with commercial property, so any improvements that you make towards that property, it raises the property value up times the multiple. So when you see that property, you're looking at the potential of that property. If you put $10 in this property, now this property is worth $100 more now, based on the stuff that you do to this property. So you want to make sure it has upside to it. That's all part of the game. Like these apartment complexes, right? So if you drive past apartment complexes and they have these canopies where you can rent them out to be able to park your car up under there, sometime at $100 a month or something like that in Dallas. That's a huge markup. So if the last people who own that property wasn't using that, charging people to park up on this canopy, and you now are using, charging people money, $100, that property is now worth a whole lot more money because you was able to get more money out of it. Maybe you put some vending machines there. Maybe you charge it now for washing clothes or have like a washing tier or whatever the case is. That is extra money that's coming in that the old now is probably worth a whole lot more money. So it's important. Man, commercial investing is totally different, but man, the money you can make off commercial deals is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. So, but it all started from some residential properties. So we just got to start thinking bigger. So, what you think, Cody?
I think that's exactly right. I think that you've got to, like any business, and I've said this on this podcast previously, like any business, it has to be, you've got to treat it like a business, which means you have to have a business model, you have to have a strategic model, and you have to have a marketing model. And those are what you follow and stay within the lanes of what those models are. And in your vision of what you want to grow to, this is an exact way to do it. If you're going to acquire, one rental house a year, and then 5 years from now you've got 5 rental houses, then you can sell all 5 of those to buy a commercial property like he suggests here. And so as long as the equity is there that supports that. So I think, again, as somebody is sitting out there and they're listening, and I don't know how many people are listening to us at this point, but as long as you have made that long-term plan, then I think you can just rotate into this here, and eventually you're not working anymore because your properties are giving you that mailbox money.
Absolutely. That's the key to this thing. That's what you're trying to should be trying to acquire. Get to that point to where things are running, not just because of you, but in spite of you, right? So,
Yeah.
like Cody's doing with his thing. So, let's go over these 3 points here, and then we'll get off Mr. Peter Conti, Peter Harris as well. Let's see what he talked about. He said he has 3 main things that we should be paying attention to when it comes to 1031 exchange. Let's see what he's talking about.
3 main things you need to know when performing a 1031 exchange. Very important. Right. So the 3 main things are, number 1, you need to know the 1031 exchange basics. The numbers 1031 is code word for an IRS, Internal Revenue Service, tax code. So 1031 exchange is a law and stipulates that you can sell your investment property and trade up into a larger property and defer your capital gains taxes if you follow certain rules. I call those a 1031 exchange basics. So that's number 1. So we'll go over that in a second. So the first main thing is 1031 exchange basics, the inner workings. The second thing is not on the board yet, but the second thing is to know what your profits are. Doesn't make sense to know when you sell your property. You need to know what the profits are so you know exactly what you can trade up into. That's the second main thing. The third main thing is, what are you exchanging into? What is your replacement property, right? So are you selling your single family home rental and you trading up into what? An apartment building, self-storage, office building, retail? Exchange into and which you cannot exchange into. All right, so let's get started with the 1031 exchange basics, the basic rules.
All right, so
okay.
Let's go over these basics here.
I have this table here, which
he's very thorough too.
the basics of a 1031 exchange. Right, so 2 things right away. Is this is your property that you're selling for $500,000, and this is your replacement property that you're buying for $1 million. So the basics, number 1 is your property that you exchange into must be equal to or greater than the property that you're selling. We call this your relinquished property and then your replacement property. So your replacement property must be equal to or greater than your relinquished property. So it is. So you're trading up from a $500,000 to $1 million.
So in other words, if you had a property that you have that you're selling for $500,000 and you see something else that's for $400,000, you can't put that $1,000 in your account, right? You can't put that in your account. It has to go either equal or it has to be greater than. See, no money out. Man, can I just put $495,000 in there? And once you take that 5, it blows up everything.
Yeah, and that's value.
Yes.
And so the other question is, the value of your current property is going to be struck at what you sell it for.
Yes.
And then, of course, the value of the replacement property is what you're purchasing it for. So, those seem like they're pretty hard and fast numbers. You may sell your property at $500,000, but it could be worth $525,000. You're just taking a small discount to facilitate a sale. So it's what you sell it at versus, what the actual true market value may be. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, one thing, Jay, can you put the link with this particular YouTube video into the chat box in case some of the other folks would like to link into this and look at it again a little bit later?
Yeah, I definitely will.
Okay, that'd be perfect. Yeah.
The second main thing to qualify for 1030 exchanges, the amount of equity that you move forward must be equal to or greater, right? So you must leverage, you must take all of your proceeds here, your profits here, and you must put them into your replacement property. If you do not, if you make $250,000 on your sale and you only move forward $200,000, right? That means your 1031 exchange has failed and you're going to pay taxes on that $50,000, right? And it defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do here, build wealth and buy more assets. So you must bring your total profits of $250,000 into the new deal. right? Then you have your corresponding mortgage there. So this is the leverage part. So again, the value in the equity must be equal to or greater than the property that you relinquish. Okay, most important rule. All right. So the other thing is, I remember there's lots of rules here. Is once you sell your property, you have 45 days to identify your new property. 45 days, and then you have a total of 180 days to close your deal. So you have a full, once you sell your property, you have a 45-day period to identify your new property. And then from that day you sold up to 180, meaning additional 135 days to close your deal. So you have 6 months to do everything. Okay. And
Okay, so
beyond those 6 months,
that's significant, right? So if I thought it was 90 days. So it's 45 days. I'm gonna look that up again. So I thought it said 90 days. So it's 45 days. So once you find that property that you want to purchase, you have to turn it into, this is the IRS?
Well, the IRS will be looking at that, and if you miss
Yeah.
those time frames, then it becomes a taxable event. Yeah.
Gotcha. So the IRS, you got to be notified. So even if it's multiple properties, whatever it is, as long as it is equal to or greater, you have to turn those in as well, right? You say, okay, these are the properties I'm looking at. Then after that, we say once your property sold, then you got 180 days, total days to close that deal. So which is what it's basically six months to get it done. So if you're not able to get it done in these 6 months, it's something that you did wrong, right? Big time.
Yeah, and you would think that the exchange company that you have moved your money into to hold while you're going through this process, they'll probably have a requirement upon them that they need to notify the IRS
Yeah,
if you don't exchange out that money within the 180-day time period.
absolutely. All right, excellent.
Considered a failed 1031 exchange, and you have to pay the taxes. We call that boot. Okay.
Oops.
The last thing is you must use
It's a technical real estate term.
intermediary or a qualified 1031 exchange company. Those are everywhere on the internet. You can ask your escrow company for who they use or who they approve to do your deal. So they must be a qualified company. Not anyone can complete your 1031 exchange. It's called a qualified intermediary or a QI. Right? So those are the basic rules. Now, when you sell your property and you're in that 45-day identification period, there are 3 rules that you need to go by. Right? So the first rule to identify your next property, your upleg, is called the 3 property rule, where you can identify up to 3 properties.
Okay.
Right? And you can close on just so long as you close on one of them and they're greater than 500,000. Your property that you sold, then you're okay. So you can choose up to 3. That's the 3 property rule. Next, we have the 200% rule, where you can identify an unlimited number of properties, but it can't exceed 200% of the property that you relinquish. Got it? Okay. And then we have the 95% rule, where you can identify more than 3 properties, but you must purchase at least 95% of all the properties that you identify. Right?
Okay.
The most popular out of the 3 is the very first one, because it's the simplest. That means that once you sell your property, you can identify 3 properties and just purchase one, so long as it's greater than or equal to the value here, and you move forward all your equity. Okay. All right.
All right. So man, he really broke that down, man.
Yeah.
He never lets me down, man. That's a good guy. I owe him some money. I ain't gonna lie. I did some real estate off basis of stuff I've learned from this guy. So I owe him some money when I see him. so listen, man. I think that was a lot of good information about the 1031 exchange, man. And I know now when I'm talking to some people, I can speak a little bit more about it, and telling them about it. Although I've never done, I'm not gonna lie, say I've done one before. I've never done it before, but I know it's coming. It's coming. So I'm just starting to get this information now. So, and I definitely, all you guys, so again, this guy that we just went over, his name is Peter Harris. He was a commercial property investor. I will send you guys the link to this YouTube channel and his website as well. And yeah, man, go on YouTube and look at a lot of his videos. Man, he have a lot of good information for commercial stuff. So he's a coach, he's a mentor, So I've been listening to this guy for years, so he's pretty good, man. So what do you think, Cody?
Well, I'm just thinking, obviously, the whole purpose of a 1031 exchange is to defer taxes.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things that I always try and figure out, how can I do that, from a note perspective or another way. So if you have a rental property and you want to sell it, oftentimes you can carry the paper yourself. You become the bank to whoever that purchaser is, and then you get to collect your proceeds over time rather than a lump sum. So this is a situation on a 1031 exchange, involves you getting the proceeds in one lump sum, taking that one lump sum and exchanging it into a replacement property. If you want to sell that property and carry the paper, then you're only paying taxes on the installments that come up on an annual basis. So that's one way. If you don't have the ability to do a 1031 exchange, or maybe it's a low equity position or whatever, you can sell the property, carry the paper, become the bank, and then that buyer pays you on a monthly installment basis. And so your taxes convert from capital gains on a lump sum to capital gains on that monthly amount times 12, whatever you receive during a year. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
The other way that avoids all this sort of stuff is if you can buy a property using your self-directed IRA, because all the IRA stuff is either if it's a traditional IRA, it's tax deferred, or if it's a Roth IRA, there is no taxes on that. So, I mean, and that's, I kind of like playing with IRAs, and you actually can use your IRA to finance, so you can actually get a loan, what's called a non-recourse loan. Your IRA does the down payment, you get a non-recourse loan for the difference there. And so there's a lot of different ways. And it's like you said earlier in this conversation, Jay, is there are a lot of different ways to do things. Yeah. And so part of what I see you bring into your audience as you do these every other week podcasts is getting people to think there's other things to do. There's other ways to do it. You've got all sorts of choices. And here's what we found. Maybe you can spark some interest and find some things yourself. So that's what I appreciate. And that's why I like to be a part of what you're doing here, is because it gets all of us. I know it gets me motivated when I get off this call here. I mean, boom, I'm looking at something here, because it gets me motivated to maybe I can learn one more thing. So thank you for that.
No, man, I appreciate you, man. But in the same, like, I have a crazy mind, man. Like I have my mind wrapped around something. We may be having a conversation, and my mind won't let it go.
Yeah.
So the podcast forces me to go ahead and dive into it to get some of the answers off of it, because I'm going to have to talk about it another week or so. So I need to get it now, right?
Right on. Absolutely.
Because last week, the week before. We talked about how you can get your 401k rolled into your Roth IRA, right? And I'm like, wow. Think about all these people who have been switching jobs and things of that nature. They may have a 401k over here, one over here, whatever the case is. Now, all you have to just fund that money right to your self-directed IRA and turn around, use some of that money to purchase some properties or whatever the case is, and put that money back into that. And it's so much. It's endless, man. It's a lot going on. It's a lot. I've learned a lot from it, man. Yeah, definitely. I really appreciate it. I don't know what happened to everybody today, man, but they missed a good one today. I see Sean was trying to get in for some reason. He couldn't jump on with us, but this was interesting.
I always appreciate being able to be involved in a discussion about stuff I know very little about. So
yes, sound like me.
Yeah.
And I'm honest, man. I've never done one of these before. But I know eventually I'm gonna get to that point to where I'm gonna need to know. So it's gonna happen. So, but listen, man, this was action packed, and man, I'm gonna tell you, I would have had one by like that.
Yeah, I did.
That was fast, man.
Yeah. Good stuff, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So tell us how you can be reached, and tell them what you do again, and how you can be reached, and
Yeah,
how you guys
so
can do
and
business.
thank you for giving me that opportunity. Right now, I'm in the process of bringing another fund to the marketplace.
Okay.
I'm working on all my details, working on the executive summary to put together what's called the private placement memorandum. I've got my attorney in DC pretty much ready to go and turn this into actually some legal documents. But what I do is I'm a note investor, although I run a note business, and those are two different things. So the note business I run is I am a fund manager. I manage a fund where I have raised capital from various investors and use that capital to purchase promissory notes secured by residential real estate. And then the payments that those borrowers make from us, we take that, pool the money, and then disperse that out to the investors on a quarterly basis based on their percentage of ownership into the fund LLC. And then I get, a little slice off that myself. And so that's what I do is for folks who want to approach this real estate business from a passive basis, because one, they don't have the time to go in and research all this kind of stuff, because it takes some research, it takes some networking, it takes some sources, attorneys, and all sorts of folks to get involved with this. They don't have the time, or maybe they just don't want to, but they have a pocket full of capital that they want to deploy and do that. Then a passive investment is the best way to go for those type of individuals. And as like you said, anytime you want to do that, they have to vet the sponsor. And so you've got to make sure that whoever you're dealing with, who you're going to deposit your money with, knows what they're doing. They're of good reputation and they're honest, and they're going to pay you the return. And so that's what I do is I help people, especially folks that are, they have undeployed IRA money. I help people, just like many people probably on this call, that want to get involved in something. They want to improve their net worth, but they don't exactly know how to do it. And they don't have the time or perhaps temperament to get involved in doing it actively. So I provide them a passive opportunity.
Absolutely. I love that, man. I love that. And I know last time we talked, and I said I'm gonna reach out to you. We'll talk a little bit more in depth about that, because I know a lot of how that network individuals, man. So we need to see how we can bring this thing together. Maybe you can shoot me a text when you're available, maybe tomorrow, so we can jump on a quick call and let's talk about that a little bit more.
And the other thing, Jay, and I'll just say this publicly, is when we get a little closer to rolling this out, and we're going to do it in what's called the Regulation D 506C, which allows me to, one, market my fund, and two, only allows me to deal with accredited investors. And if you have some folks that want to hear more about it, I'll fly myself down to where you're at, and we'll have a big meeting and maybe buy some dinner and give me an opportunity to talk in front of those folks. So, I'm willing to come down, because I'm just raring to meet you face to face.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So listen, man, this is I love it, man. I love it, man. Like I said, I'm just like you, man. I like to talk about stuff that I really don't know a whole lot about, right? But I'm a huge fan of real estate.
I'm going to start calling you Mr. Curious, because that's what you are. You are curious.
Yes. And actually, this thought about 1031 exchange came from Jason.
Oh,
last
cool.
time he was on a call at the end, he said, "So what you want to talk about?" He said, "I think he said 1031 exchange or something." And I remember somebody said that, and I was like, you know what? Let me pull that up. We do a little research on it. So, but yeah, whenever you want to come down, let me know, man.
I'll let you know.
Let's talk a little bit more about that, man.
Sure.
So, also, man, so you guys out there, man, will get into some commercial stuff, man. Let me know. Reach out to me. We're getting ready to do some amazing stuff, and we want to do a kickball tournament for some real estate investors and stuff like that. So if you guys want to be a part of that, definitely reach out to me as well. It's going to be here in Dallas, Texas. So title companies, real estate, hopefully attorneys as well, real estate agents, loan officers, all that good stuff. So I want to get a group of us together, maybe 4 or 5 teams, 6 teams, or whatever the case is, and go out there and have some fun, man, and rub shoulders with each other, and swap business cards and all that good stuff, and make this the first one this year, and then continue on throughout, many, many years to come.
Yeah.
All right. So also we got some different shows that's going to be coming up here on the network as well. Definitely stay tuned for that. And hey, reach out to me, man. One more thing. So I just made a post, guys, out there for you guys who are looking to get into wholesaling. I know a lot of these wholesaling coaches are charging you guys 10 grand to do this and do that. No. You don't need to do that at all. Reach out to me, man. Let's make this thing happen. We talk about $99. We'll do like a 2-week deal, and we'll walk you. It won't even take that long to get it done because immediately I want you guys making calls, right? But in 2 weeks' time, you're ready to go. $99. That's it. That's gonna make you some money. That's the key to this whole deal. So again, man. So salute to everybody out there. Jason Sims, man, we miss you today, man. Mr. Sean, we miss you as well, man. Jarrell, definitely miss you guys, man. Lenny, miss you guys as well, and the ladies as well. One of them just hit me up, said she wanted to be able to make it, but we'll get everybody on a call. I supposed to get everybody a call earlier today, man, but it slipped my mind. So, but yeah, next week we'll be ready to rock, man. So if you have something you want to talk about next week, let me know, Cody. We can definitely do that.
Yeah, that will be 2 weeks, right?
Next 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah,
2 weeks.
yeah, perfect.
Salute to you, sir.
To you too, my friend.
I'll get with you this week.
All right, sounds good, sir. Thank
You
you.
have a great one. Peace.
Bye-bye.
Mr. Cody's a great guy, man. Mr. Cody's a great guy, man. He jumps on, man. He's ready to rock and roll, man. He's a wealth of knowledge, man. So if you guys want to reach out and be a part of whatever he got going on, do not hesitate to do it, man. So also, man, jump on this Patreon, guys. My Patreon is right here. The Discord, reach out to me, shoot me a text or whatever the case is. Jump on Discord. We're on there talking about real estate. We're talking about business. We're talking about traveling. We're talking about everything under the sun. So you want to be a part of that as well. So the Patreon has like 3 different levels, guys. This type of content right here, it won't be on YouTube for the most part, right? We're doing it right now, but eventually it won't be on YouTube. This will be for the Patreon group. It's $20 a month. Where you get stuff like this is behind the scenes, where you see us actually chop it up and put deals together and all that good stuff. How to do a trip on that Nissan from beginning to end. When we get on the call as a group, we getting ready to open up our own title company, right? So we have this thing called the Build a Business, which I stole from Anton Daniels. Salute to you, Anton Daniels. I'm gonna give you your love as well. But it's called Build a Business, Build Your Business, right? And to where we're not doing a brick and mortar. We're doing everything online. So we have a couple of guys that's on there. We're gonna chop it up, right? So we show we it's like our 3rd different one that we're doing. We went from what software we're gonna use, notary company we're gonna use, how we're gonna use the documents, like all that good stuff. So we're working our way through this whole thing. We minding our way up through this whole deal. And so probably the top of next year, probably, or late this year, whatever the case is. We'll roll that thing out. So we'll be able to close deals in all of Texas, kind of all over the United States, right? So it's a title company. So if you guys want to be a part of that, definitely jump on this Patreon, man. So you can see how these things are done, right? Get a seat at the table, guys. All right, this is Jay Wicker. Hey, man, I'm going to see you guys at the title company, man. Let's go win together, guys. Reach out to me. Wholesaling, $99. That's it. Not $10,000, $99. Real Estate Holics.